President Donald Trump is placing a high priority on attracting increased investment from the Gulf into the United States. As he prepares for a diplomatic tour across the region, a key objective is to secure substantial financial commitments that can strengthen the American economy and reinforce his America First agenda. Economist Karen Young of the Middle East Institute notes that Trump is seeking visible, impactful announcements, ideally something like a poster at the meetings, highlighting where the Gulf funds will go and what they could mean for U.S. jobs and manufacturing. Trump is scheduled to arrive in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, on May 13th to meet Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He'll then attend a Gulf Leadership Summit before continuing to Qatar and wrapping up the trip in the UAE on May 15th. This visit was initially planned as Trump's first overseas journey of his second term, underscoring the importance he places on U.S. Gulf relations. That plan changed following the death of Pope Francis, which required his attendance at the funeral in Rome. Interestingly, Saudi Arabia was also Trump's first foreign stop during his previous term, breaking with the usual tradition of visiting Canada, the UK, or Mexico first. Securing investments from Gulf nations, particularly through their massive sovereign wealth funds, would be a significant political win for Trump. It would help him showcase real economic outcomes tied to his foreign policy. The visit is also drawing major players from Wall Street and Silicon Valley, with CEOs from firms like BlackRock, Palantir, Citigroup, IBM, Alphabet, and Qualcomm expected at a U.S. Saudi investment forum in Riyadh on May 13th. This economic push comes at a challenging time for the U.S., as new tariffs imposed by Trump have disrupted global trade, shaken investor confidence, and triggered a contraction in American GDP, the first quarterly decline in 3 years. In January, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman announced Saudi plans to invest $600 billion in the U.S. over the coming years. President Trump, however, is aiming to raise that figure to $1 trillion, with a significant portion likely directed toward purchasing U.S. military equipment. Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, or PIF, which oversees around $925 billion in assets, already holds substantial investments in American companies, including Uber, Electronic Arts, and electric vehicle manufacturer Lucid Motors. Meanwhile, the UAE has committed to investing $1.4 trillion in the U.S. over the next decade, with a focus on high-tech sectors like AI, semiconductors, energy, and manufacturing. Karen Young cautions that these figures may be overly ambitious in the short term. Instead, she views them as part of long-term strategic planning and suggests they be taken with a grain of salt. Among the major deals expected to be announced during Trump's visit is a Saudi agreement to purchase more than $100 billion in U.S. military hardware. The package is said to include missiles, radar systems, and transport aircraft. Although the U.S. has long been a leading arms supplier to Saudi Arabia, sales of offensive weapons were halted in 2021 under the Biden administration due to concerns over the war in Yemen and the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Arms sales resumed last year, with the U.S. citing a Saudi halt to airstrikes in Yemen. Some analysts believe this renewed cooperation also reflects an American interest in working with Riyadh to help stabilize Gaza and participate in future reconstruction efforts. Saudi leaders are also expected to press the White House for a faster, more efficient arms procurement process. The Trump administration is reportedly implementing new procedures aimed at speeding up approvals and simplifying delivery timelines. Artificial intelligence is another central theme of the trip. Talks will likely focus on boosting Gulf investment in U.S. tech firms, while also improving regional access to advanced American semiconductors. Both Saudi Arabia and the UAE have poured billions into AI and tech innovation as part of efforts to reduce reliance on oil. The UAE, in particular, aims to position itself as a global AI leader. Just last week, the Trump administration lifted restrictions that had been imposed under Biden on U.S. chip exports to over 120 countries, including Gulf states. New regulations are now being drafted that may involve direct negotiations with partners like the UAE. Karen Young emphasized that access to U.S. technology is essential for the UAE's AI ambitions, describing it as a top priority. While the U.S. hopes to attract Gulf capital, Saudi Arabia is equally eager to draw American investment into its Vision 2030 initiative. This sweeping economic reform plan is centered around projects like The Line, a futuristic linear city, and includes major pushes in tourism, entertainment, mining, and sports. Despite these efforts, foreign direct investment into Saudi Arabia has declined for 3 consecutive years, highlighting continued challenges in appealing to global investors. That pressure has been compounded by a sharp drop in oil prices, which recently hit a 4-year low due to fears of a global economic slowdown and a decision by OPEC Plus, of which Saudi Arabia is a member, to increase oil production. Some believe this output hike was partially influenced by Trump's call for lower oil prices, while others argue it reflects confidence in long-term global demand. Trump's visit is also seen as a chance to reinvigorate business ties. The U.S.-Saudi Business Council is hoping that the visit will prompt more American companies to pursue opportunities in Saudi Arabia, especially in growth sectors like AI, healthcare, and education. Council representatives in Riyadh say there's strong interest among Saudi firms in collaborating with U.S. companies, and officials are optimistic that new deals will be signed during the trip. For Saudi Arabia, the visit is about reaffirming a long-standing relationship with a key Western ally. For President Trump, it's an opportunity to deliver headline-grabbing investment announcements that reinforce his economic vision.